Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Hayley. Hayley, you're in a new place.
I am in a new place. I took on an adventure for 2022 and I've left Merida for now and went to the mountains. So I'm in San Cristobal de las Casas, which is in Chiapas. So it's almost more central and southern Mexico. We're rather close to Guatemala. And yeah, in the mountains. So it's cooler, higher, and drier.
And how's your internet connection? Is it going to be better than or just as good as?
You never know. I'm
Yeah.
expecting it to be just as good as, maybe a little bit better. But one of
Good.
the things that I've heard is when there's cloud cover, the internet kind of goes out.
Oh, no
So
kidding.
just things that, these nuances that you're just like, okay, we'll see what happens.
And there was a day when the internet, there was no such thing. So, I mean, we take things for granted. Now, you were telling me that when you left Wall Street, you sort of made a commitment to yourself to live anywhere in the world.
Yeah, my number one sort of goal, I guess, was to live and work from anywhere in the world as long as there was electricity and Wi-Fi.
Mm.
So, leaving New York was sort of that first step.
Huge step.
Big step. Coming to Mexico was another big step.
Really?
Going to Merida, was really sort of one of the countries I've worked from. I think since I've left banking, I'm at around working from at least 5 countries and living in 4.
Oh, no kidding.
Huh? 4 now. So, I love exploring. I love being on adventure. I love the opportunity to be able to pick up my stuff and go somewhere and learn about a new culture, be in a different surrounding, understand different things, and really have that diversity of life, which rejuvenates me. It absolutely rejuvenates me.
There's a part of me that's jealous because it sounds romantic, and the idea of being able to pack up easily your possessions and transplant yourself wherever you want sounds pretty cool. But I'm aware that it would be much harder to do as a couple because you have 2 careers or 2, viewpoints about live. And one can't necessarily move easily for a variety of reasons, doctors,
Right.
access to pain meds, whatever. So I think often people who are single envy those who are coupled, and people who are coupled sometimes envy those who are single.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a wonderful couple just opposite me where I'm staying right now, and they're doing the same thing. Then they're 2 cats and a dog are traveling around Mexico and spending, 2 months in each place.
Oh.
I think it's becoming a lot more accessible now, given the whole, digital nomad, people being able to work remotely has really opened that up and has created enormous opportunities. But at the same time, with those opportunities comes sort of that conscious awareness of there's a cost to those opportunities. So I think it's, things are definitely changing. How, humans move around, how they live is changing. And I think we're just sort of at the cusp of it. Who knows what it's going to look like in 2 to 5 years' time.
Yeah. So Hayley, the new digs that you have, are you going to have retreats there too? Do you have room for people to come?
No. I think if people want to come here, it's really quite difficult to get here. So ironically, I almost got more isolated to become more extroverted.
Become more extroverted?
Sorry?
You went to a more isolated place to become more extroverted?
I did.
Explain.
So to get to San Cristobal from Merida, which is in Mexico, is pretty much a day's worth of travel. I left Merida at 9 o'clock in the morning. I got here at 4:30 in the afternoon. So it's 2 plane rides, a bus ride, a taxi ride.
Oh, wow.
With luggage. So it's a full day's travel. I definitely came here seeking a community. So there's a very vibrant community here of healers, multi-denominational healers, whether it be Christian, spiritual, New Age. It's a very vibrant community. It's a much more diverse community than what I came from in Merida. Merida was, very, there were 2 things. There were either the locals or the expats. And the expats were all retired white people. Here, I don't think you can actually say that there's a overwhelming expat type. Obviously, the locals are the majority. But even then, that's a little bit different. They're all a little bit different. So yeah, I definitely became more isolated to really push myself to be in more of a community.
Good for you. And I know you haven't been there very long, right? I mean,
not yet. Yeah, I arrived on Friday, so I've really been like today's.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you pick up a good vibe.
I really love it. It was very interesting, and obviously I've done this a couple times, so I'm used to packing up, moving, how that move goes, and just trying to keep myself sort of calm and centered throughout the entire process. This by far was my most relaxing move. Just
it was.
It was complicated. I flew from Merida to Mexico City. Mexico City, I had 50 minutes to connect.
Ooh.
And then flew from Mexico City to a little town called Tuxtla. And then from Tuxtla, find the bus to San Cristobal. Once you arrive in San Cristobal, find the taxi. The place that I thought I was staying at was not actually where I was staying. So I got to the wrong place and then had to take another taxi to here.
Oh, no.
Throughout all of it, and I have my luggage with me. So it's not just as easy as having a backpack and like, hey, we're mobile. It was a big day, but I was totally calm throughout it and just like, okay, it's fine. I'll figure it out.
So what's your secret on that? How do you maintain peace?
Practice makes perfect. It really is a practice. When you do it your first time, I pretty much would say it's probably going to suck because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what to expect. You don't know how to maneuver. When you've done it a couple times, you kind of know what to expect. You kind of sort of set a baseline, and you kind of are able just to sort of raise that tolerance level a bit more. So I think that's really the key, doing it more than once. I think having less luggage. Even after this move, I was like, I've got to cut down on my luggage. I have too much.
How many bags did you carry?
I have 2 checked pieces and 2 carry-ons.
So when you landed in Mexico City and only had 15 minutes, did you have to go grab the checked pieces?
No, I just said a prayer and I was like, I hope that they get on the plane. If not, I always carry extra clothes in my carry-on in case my luggage gets delayed. It doesn't arrive when I arrive. So that's sort of one of the tips. Always carry like 2 pieces of clean clothes and whatever you need for 2 days in case your luggage doesn't arrive, especially when you're connecting.
Are you writing at all about this, the experience?
Part of being here is to really start writing and really get some of these things organized.
A book or a book or blog?
Probably a book more. I've got like sort of 3 books that have started. So I need to, this part of being here and having sort of more of a community and a co-working community is to really organize the books and really get cracking on them.
A lot of my books are, at least some of them, and some of the ones that have done best have been a collection of things that I've already written. And, sometimes you think, oh, people have already seen it, but a very few people have seen, the original column or the original blog that, and they're a good length. A blog is a good length for a chapter.
Yeah.
So you might consider, continuing, because I know your newsletter has, a blog.
I haven't
right?
done that in over a year.
Oh, no kidding. Well, that doesn't matter. It's still there.
But it is the shorter chapters are definitely my sweet spot.
Yeah, that's the way I like, make a point, use some examples, and get out of there, because
Yeah.
after a few paragraphs, people have had enough.
Yeah, and I feel like I can repeat, so it just becomes a bunch of dribble.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that happened in sex education, Hayley, was that a lot of us who have been in it for many, many years thought, oh, these films, everyone has seen them, everyone's heard my story, everyone's heard this example. And the reality is that those were other people that heard it.
Absolutely.
There's a whole new group, that needs to hear it. Even if you're tired of it, they haven't heard it yet. So, if it worked in the past, keep sharing it. Maybe, give examples that are more contemporary when you're giving examples, so that they relate better. But they haven't heard it yet. And
I think it's such a, when you think about imposter syndrome, that's really where it comes from. Like, who wants to hear my story? Like, there's so many books out there. There's so many movies. There's so many people doing things. Who wants to hear my stuff?
But it's not your, but those books and movies aren't your story.
They're not. And I think we, really have to, for me at least, it's remembering that nobody has a story like my story. And times are changing so quickly that we all need to be sharing our story and taking a bit of courage to speak.
Because it is fleeting, and you don't know,
It is.
What's going to happen. Young people get diagnosed with a very serious disease, and they think, this isn't fair. I'm young, and that's not supposed to happen to me. I have a friend to whom that happened, and he was struggling, with the fact that I'm athletic. How is this? And I said, you're creating suffering for yourself when you have expectations of what your life should have looked like.
Absolutely.
So this is the new normal. Let's embrace it and see where we go from here. But forget about, past dreams of what you thought your life.
Expectations. I mean, I would never, had you even asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, would you be in Mexico? I would have said no. I would have been in Europe. It was never, like, San Cristobal was never on my bucket list. Merida was never on my bucket list. I didn't even know Merida existed until 2 weeks before I arrived there. And I think, that this idea that life is supposed to meet our expectations creates an enormous amount of anxiety. And when we just let go and sit back and be like, oh my God, what a ride, and how blessed we are along that ride.
Can I share with you another thing that we have to deal with besides our expectations is our assumption of the expectations of others about us. I've had 2 fun big scores lately. One was having the book that was made into the movie win Best Animated Film at the Toronto Film Festival, the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender Film Festival, and the other was the publication of and the great response to On Being Gay and Gray, our stories, gifts, and the meaning of our lives. And Hayley, one of the things that's been eating at me is, okay, what's next? You haven't written a column in a while. Well, hurry up, it's due. What do you have to say? And don't just say anything. You have to say something significant.
Because a lot of pressure.
Because now you have a lot of attention. So, who was that? Oh, Brian McNaught, let's see what he has to say. And they go, Lord, how many times have I said it? The same thing. How many times have I used these examples? And you start to think, right now I'm waiting on the muse. And my friend said, if you wait, you're going to be frustrated because it'll come when you least expect it.
Right. You can't watch the potato boil.
Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's it's a big lesson and a tough lesson to learn, that waiting doesn't mean that you sit and do nothing. Waiting means that you go live and have fun until you get that inspired action to do something else. And for me, it's always been impromptu. Like if I sit down and say, I'm going to write now, I'll stare at the screen for 30 minutes. But if I take a book with me or some paper with me and go sit in a cafe and just start writing down thoughts, it will be like burning fire, man.
Yeah.
That paper will be full in a moment. And
a lot of what you're going to write is probably about what happened between when you left the house and when you sat down at the cafe.
Yeah.
And what did you think about when you saw that? And then you have this great story to tell.
And therein lies your muse.
Yeah, therein lies your muse.
Yeah.
It is
frustrating. The wait, and I mean, patience is, show me somebody who has like patience consistently and like across all areas of their life. I don't even know if patience and humanity goes together.
Yeah, well, that's what you talked about, the practice, right?
Right.
You have to practice it. You have to shape your brain so that it functions the way that you want it to. Like,
and it's every day. Yeah,
every
it's not
day.
Something that you're like, oh, I got that down, I'm good now. So you have to do it every single day. Regardless of how far you've come, you still need to spend every day some time priming and making sure the brain is very aware of what we're doing today.
You have a dog next door.
My neighbors have their dog and 2 cats.
Yeah.
What
kind of a dog is barking?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
it's a dog with one white paw.
I find that if I get irritated by like a barking dog, once I go over and meet the dog and play with the dog, then the barking is very different.
Yeah,
the
tone changes.
It's more music than it is annoyance, right? Oh, that's just Dolly. That's what Dolly's like. Other than whose damn dog is that?
It's and I think that's one of the things that I love about moving around, is that you get to appreciate all the noises and all the different noises. Mm-hmm. So there's a very vibrant chicken or rooster that is literally like clockwork. There's a turkey, which I'm like, how random to be living next door to a turkey.
I love turkey.
Often, like throughout the day. And then there's Bongo the dog.
Yeah.
Who greets me and if I don't give him attention, he'll kind of nip at my ankles. And then their 2 cats come out and hang out with me. So it's just one of those things where you just, I think, practice, you kind of relax into it, and you're just like, all right, this is what it is. It's fine. Go with it.
We live within easy sound of it. We're actually only a couple blocks from railroad tracks. And I love the sound of train. I love the sound of the bell going off when the guards are coming down to block it. We also live near an airport, and you can hear the planes overhead.
I haven't heard a plane like this week. Haven't heard a single plane, but we do have firecrackers going off throughout the day. So part of the Mexican Catholic tradition is you celebrate with firecrackers, and in the mountains it sounds quite different.
Well, this is the beginning of Lent too. So
it's every single day, regardless. And around Christmas, it's all day, every day.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But right now it's just a couple times a day. And like yesterday, there were a few more. But yeah, that's swapped out airplanes and traffic for the firecrackers. And it's just like, okay.
And a turkey and a rooster.
A turkey and a rooster. And I live close to a church, so I hear their bells. I love church bells.
Yeah, I do too. We used to live near neighbors of ours before this move had peacocks. And they had amazing call.
Yeah.
And of course, up the lake, we hear loons, and that's a haunting call in the early morning or in the evening. So, Hayley, let's take some of this information that we're talking about and apply it to, again, to the world we're in. One is the divide, at least I'm conscious of it because I live in it, the divide politically in this country. That's not, I mean, it's beyond politics. It's animosity between people. Is there a message about going and meeting the dog so that the barking doesn't bother you so much?
I think very much.
Yeah.
And one of, the wonderful things about my life and my choices, which many people don't understand, is that every time I think I'm open, I learn how to open more. And being able to be open and to meet everything with compassion, everything with the idea or the notion that all truths are but half a truth, really allows just a moment to sort of, for me at least, for me to say, well, I wonder where they are and where they're coming from. What can I understand about their story? And I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, being able to speak our story. Everybody gets to speak their story, not just the stories we want to hear, not just the ones we think are right. Everybody does. Everybody has a story.
And we listen. We don't interrupt.
We've got to listen better. And people, I put out earlier this week that for anybody that is directly impacted by conflict, regardless of where the conflict is, I will give free sessions. And the first thing I said was that the free session includes me just listening to your experience.
Good for you. Have you had takers?
Nope.
Well, it doesn't matter. You often
not yet. I think we're very much in a place where everybody is shell-shocked. Thursday, Friday last week were, shell-shocking.
With the invasion of
and I think with, Texas came out with a little, Florida came out with a little, it was just like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, Texas and Florida.
On humanity.
Yeah.
And I think, people haven't even come out of that place yet. People are still hiding in the bathroom waiting for the tornado to blow over.
Yeah, you've got COVID, which they're sick to death of, but nevertheless still afraid of. You've got, the international response to the invasion of the Ukraine. As a gay person, in Florida, the Don't Say Gay bill that the governor is eager to, Governor DeSantis, who wants to be president, and I think would be much more difficult than Trump. He's eager to sign this bill that forbids you to talk about gay in the classroom from first through, I think, fourth grade. So what happens for those first graders who have gay moms? Are they able to say that? And the reporting of teachers, that if the teacher doesn't respond, and in Texas, telling parents that they're abusing their children if they help them transition as transgender people. It's very scary.
I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about the reasons why, these bills were introduced. I don't know. I don't know why these people are saying, I can assume, but I honestly haven't done the research in terms of what they believe that they're trying to avoid or what they're afraid of. I think, like I said, I feel like it's so soon to try and figure out where we're going with all of this. I would hope, and being optimistic, that perhaps we get to the point where we don't really care about what your parents are doing behind closed doors. You just have parents, and how lucky are you? Wouldn't that be a wonderful, there is no label. There is no, there's, Nancy and her parents are gay. Why can't Nancy just have parents like your parents?
Right.
Maybe that's where we're going, where everything is respected and honored. The path to that might be treacherous. But again, I honestly don't know enough about these things as to why they're introduced to be able to, I don't know enough. basically.
Well, you know that my book, What's Gay Ask May, was aimed at first, second, third, fourth graders, so that they had a context when they heard the word gay. So it's personal to me in that, the governor is saying we don't want children to have access to such a thing. And they're not supported by any parent teacher group, teachers organization, therapists, doctors. There's nobody supporting it. But we watched a film last night called The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
I've heard about it. It's supposed to be really good.
Well, we saw the documentary on Tammy Faye, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and I thought, I said, we've already seen this. Ray said, yeah, but Jessica Chastain has been nominated for Best Actor. Oh my God, does she deserve it? It's a really, Andrew Garfield played Jim Baker, but it's a really good film that shows you the conflict within the religious right between people like Jerry Falwell, who are opposed to all sins, and people like Tammy Faye that said, everyone is God's creature and we have to love them. And so there was a conflict within, what we assume is an army, all in lockstep. And so I recommend it. I don't know whether or not you have access to.
I don't even have a TV. That's one of the wonderful things about San Cristobal.
Yeah.
Haven't seen one rental that had a TV in it.
Wow.
So I have Netflix on my computer and stuff, but I'm not I think it's a really nice break. I never had a TV when I lived in New York. So it's a nice break to kind of be like, all right, no more relying on TV as your comfort.
Well, actually, you are right that if your laptop or iPad is a substitute for a television, anyways.
Yeah.
You can get everything on those.
Mostly.
Yeah.
There's restrictions. Yeah, I can get most of my Netflix here compared to your Netflix is a little bit different.
Is it?
Amazon Prime, completely different. I don't get obviously the others like Hulu and that kind of stuff. Don't get them here unless I do sort of the black market stuff, which the pirated stuff, which I could, but it's just, it's different.
Hayley, this morning, the Daily Ohm, which is, I don't know if you get that, it talks about the difference between judgment and opinion, right? That just because you're committed to not judging doesn't mean that you can't have an opinion. The judgment closes down, that's wrong. The opinion is, I feel that that's not right. But the opinion is open to change, right? Judgment usually aren't. So going back to the whole issue of a bill in Florida that would prohibit teachers from mentioning the word gay and being penalized for it, I understand your reluctance to have a judgment because you don't have all the facts, but you can have an opinion.
I honestly don't have an opinion because I don't have the facts. I don't, is it as simple as teachers are not allowed to say gay? I don't think it is that simple. I think that there's an enormous amount there that for myself, I prefer to understand what it is before I can sit and say that's bad or that's good. Because I believe everybody has the right to their divinity, their sovereignty, their freedom. When somebody feels that it's threatened, I'm not going to say you're wrong and you can't say anything. I want to say, tell me why you're threatened. Let me understand, or I can create an opinion or a judgment. Well, so I don't know enough about that. I don't know enough about the bill that is going on in Texas. I don't know enough about the Ukraine conflict to be able to form either a judgment or an opinion. I think the fact that people in 2022 are having freedom stripped away, and nobody's really paying attention unless it's their family member or somebody that they know, I think that is concerning. And that's my opinion. I'm concerned about people's freedoms being stripped away and it only becoming a thing when it's a family member or somebody we know.
Mm-hmm.
We should be concerned overall, because this isn't just one subset of humanity's freedom. This is everybody's freedom.
Well, it's all connected, because
all connected.
If they're successful in removing freedom with this group, there's nothing stopping them from moving on. I mean, they've already done it with the abortion issue.
Well, they've done it with the women. They've done it with that. They're doing it with gays. They're also doing it with the teachers. By telling the teachers you're not allowed to say a certain word, you've stripped away that freedom. Mm-hmm. You stripped away the freedom of the children. You stripped away the freedom of education by saying this is the only education we're allowing. Mm-hmm. To me, that's more concerning. And to me, that's where I'm kind of like, I need to do a bit more research here in terms of how I then speak about it, and say, this is my opinion. You know, I always come back to my belief and my core value that all humans have a right to divinity, sovereignty, and freedom. And when one human's rights are stripped away, we should all be standing up saying, can that happen to me?
Let's go through your list. You said divinity,
sovereignty,
sovereign. They have a right to be sovereign over their own life.
Yeah.
Okay.
And freedom.
And how is freedom different than sovereignty?
So I start with divinity. For me, divinity means that you have the right to understand that you are a being. You are divine. Whether that comes from Allah, God, Buddha, Krishna, you're a divine being. The fact that you have a beating heart, you're a divine being. You came from something. Sovereign means, for me, that we all came from one place, yet we are one. As myself, I have a sovereign right to be one unique person. I get to be me. I don't have to be a label. I don't have to say that I have to be a part of this group or that group. I get to say I'm me, as does anybody else. Freedom, for me, is free will. I have the right, with my divinity, my sovereignty, that I can say whatever I want. I can take whatever action I want. I can do whatever I want. That's my free will. The consequences, again, because I'm divine, because I'm sovereign, because I'm free, are mine. If I choose to live in a society that has rules and I, go straight up against those and, tear right through them, there's going to be consequences. I need to be aware of that in terms of my free will and my divinity, my sovereignty. I think where it concerns me, where we are today in 2022, human rights is not a subject in school. And many people don't understand what human rights are, and might not be the exact human rights. But I think at a very basic level, the human rights are shelter, food, safety, and water. How many people understand that?
And Abraham Maslow would say love.
And love.
And that in his
safety
pyramid
comes in the love there. You need love to feel safe. Mm-hmm. And if we're in a day and age where under the guise of freedom, we're saying only certain things or certain people are free, that's not freedom.
No, and when others aren't free, I don't feel free myself.
I don't think we are free,
because I see us as part of a family. Yeah. And when other family members, Native Americans, women, whatever group is losing, has lost, has never had the same exact privileges and rights that I have, it bothers me. It's like, it would be like Hayley sitting at a big, long dining table, and my plate is full. I mean, it's just full of really delicious looking food. But people a couple places down have half as much or none.
None, and not sharing.
And yeah, and so how do you eat when people have nothing on their plate? I
think it's, I think that's a very good question, especially today. Like, how do you be happy when so many people when so many people can't be happy? Should we all be walking around sad? And is it wrong to be smiling or laughing? I think in having that plate full, if you're in a position to be grateful for your life and happy for your life, part of that sharing is sharing your laughter, sharing your joy.
And sharing your food.
Sharing your food. Your food is your happiness.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go by, in your day and you meet somebody that's having a really tough day, and because you're feeling better, you can be like, uplift them in any way that you can. That's sharing your food. It is.
Yeah, and that it transcends race and gender, religion, what you believe, what you don't believe. When we comfort one another, that brings us back to our core being.
Yeah, it's an interesting time to be human. I think it's incredibly tough to be human. It's a wonderful place to be observing and experiencing humanity, but at the same time, I think it's incredibly tough to be alive today, to be experiencing this, and to find sort of that place where you feel confident in what you know and what you're speaking of. Because I think information is so convoluted, so diluted. To try and find good information is tough, first of all. And then to be able to have conversations that are open and you can actually have a discussion is hard to come by.
I think there are places that you can find the news that is reliable. I get many online sources of news. The Guardian, which is English, I think does a really good job of presenting facts. You may feel like, CNN is too liberal and Fox News is too conservative, but I think often if somebody's taking a look at us outside of us, it's easier to get an honest perspective on what's going on.
Yeah, and I think having multiple sources, but at the same time keeping an open mind. I think just in the last week, we've seen massive breaks in the way that we are receiving information. A lot of the photos that were shared coming out of Ukraine were years old. And they were in major outlets, not just CNN, but also The Guardian picked up some of these. Many of the outlets were sharing these photos that were years ago. And I think that's what the wonderful thing that came out over the last week was.
I didn't see that. Where did you see that?
Yeah, there's a few photos that were in mainstream media, of tanks, of planes blowing over, of the president of Ukraine in a certain outfit, that once they had actually done the research on the pictures, found that they were actually used years ago.
Well, I don't like that.
I think this is where we kind of have to sit back and practice that patience, and be able to take in the information and to ask the question, is this all the information I need? Is it enough for me to stop asking questions?
Are you a news junkie?
No.
What is your source of news?
I use Al Jazeera and I use Friends. one of, again, the wonderful benefits of my life is that I have friends in many different parts of the world. So typically, I know somebody connected in, has a family member or is connected in to certain things. So I tend to get that kind of information directly from people that are experiencing it. I understand that that's also sometimes biased, but it allows me to kind of go down sort of different avenues that if I'm interested in doing more research, I kind of have different avenues to go down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But it's, again, I think it's one of the wonderful benefits of being open to diversity is that you do tend to get a wide group of friends across the world.
And how do you keep them? How do you maintain them? Because friendships have to be nurtured.
Yeah, I have a few that we speak to every week.
Okay.
And then a few that, you know, if something amazing happens or a memory comes up, it's that kind of sharing. Or, you know, usually if something like this happens, it's like, hey, I last time I heard you were close here, are you still there? Or what's going on? And it's those kind of touch bases.
Hayley, you have a weekly gathering of friends, do you? Where everyone's on
No,
call?
I don't do like a group call.
No.
It's one-off calls. So I have a few friends that very close friends that, you know, I make sure that I'm in touch with at least once a week or every 10 days or so. And then it kind of fans out from there where it's like we speak once a month, maybe once a quarter, other friends, and then others where it's the big stuff and we pick up where we left off.
I was thinking that it would be fun to have some of your friends who are doing the same kind of work you are, have a few people on the call. I've been watching Maria Shriver having a series on aging, and multiple people interviewed, Deepak Chopra, actresses, Jamie Lee Curtis, just a variety of people getting different perspectives on the multiple aspects of aging, basically saying that, you know, which is what I've been saying and other people have been saying independently, is that, you know, this is the first time that they've had as many people that are old as there are in the world. And as one might imagine, the sheer numbers demands attention. And the attention means, okay, so what does it mean to be old? I have a friend who works at a New Thought church, organizing a group of seniors, and they call themselves Forever Young. And I said, well, that doesn't fit my experience of aging. You know, my body isn't young, my soul is young. I said, so what about, you know, using the word elder? Because I love the word elder. You know, Yoda was an elder. Dumbledore was an elder. Well, people think it means elderly. Well, there's a huge difference between elderly and elder. So I was just thinking, I really enjoying that seminar, and how fun it would be sometime. We've had some great guests. I mean,
yeah.
When you think about the people that we've had on, it's really a significant group.
It is a lovely group and so much wisdom, and I'm glad that it is on YouTube. Yeah, and I think it is, you know, a matter of getting a few more people, especially on my side, to join the calls and getting people comfortable that, you know, their story is worthwhile and that we are interested in their voice. It's so interesting when you ask people to speak and when you ask people to share their stories, because so many of us don't feel like it's worth it. Like, why would anybody want to hear me speak, you know?
Well, I would think your friends would be more aware of that, you know, the importance of speaking. Ray came from a family of 7 boys, and, you know, you didn't really ask them. Well, initially I asked them immediately, so what are your feelings? And they'd look at you, I'm like, well, that's very personal. What do you mean? What are you feeling? And, but what we have a need to have our feelings affirmed, and they're affirmed by being listened to.
Yep. And I think, you know, as we're moving into a strangely more complex world, that is very quickly stripping away that fear of speaking.
So shifting back to you, if I can, and the place that you're living.
Yes.
What will your daily life be like? Will you walk to a market for food?
So yeah, where I am, I'm surrounded by mountains, and there's wonderful markets in the town, which is just down the hill. My wonderful exercise will be bringing it back up the hill for now, until I move to a different place. But yeah, everything's in the market in the town. The only things that I would need to go to, like a Walmart or a grocery store for, is like shampoo, conditioner, that kind of stuff. Otherwise, all of the food is literally outside of my door, within a 10-minute walk. I'm bringing it all up, all local, sort of coming in from the surrounding areas.
Can you, speaking of, I mean, this may sound like a dumb question because I'm not there, but can you order on Amazon?
Here, so Meredith, that was no problem. Here, they're getting there. So there's no such thing as Uber or Didi in Driver. Here in, it's just taxi right now. You can get Amazon, but the way that the houses are built here is that there's not a whole lot of street parking. So there's almost like at the front of the property is sort of this big wall and the big gate. And then that's where once you're inside, that's where the car's on, and the living is further back in the property. So when Amazon comes and knocks on that door, you literally have to be waiting all day.
I see.
So I need to figure out, Amazon does get here, so does FedEx. Figure out, like, is there a central place where I can get my stuff, if I need it, dropped off there? But honestly, so far from what I've seen, everything's available here. And I think that speaks to the community that I am in. It's a very sustainable community. So a lot of the expats that have come here and established a community here have done it with the idea of being sustainable from a local perspective. Everything you need is here. If it's not here, they're making it.
So Hayley, when you make friends there, do you make them feeling that I'm going to be moving one day, so I'm not going to, no? That doesn't impact the degree to which you invest yourself?
Not the way that I do. I did feel that in Merida, that people weren't really invested or didn't really want to put forward the effort because they were just like, oh, you're just going to move. I felt that. But for me, I never try and put a timeline or, hey, I'm only going to be here for maybe 6 months, so I'm just going to put that much effort in. I'm going full in.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this is get as much as you can out of this, because, for whatever reason, tomorrow could be my last day here. I could be here for 2 years. I've now accepted that. I don't know the timing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very blessed with the timing so far. But also, I mean, we were talking about the open heart, and just when you think your heart's open, you expand more and your heart opens more. For me, that's going in and meeting every person as if they could be my next best friend. Not going in with that needy energy, but going in with that energy of, tell me who you are. Tell me, show me.
And you fully tell them who you are?
I contribute as much as I'm asking. So I try and make an even exchange. Mm-hmm. If I'm asking a bunch of questions, I'm very conscious if they're asking me questions or if they're just happy to do all the talking. Mm-hmm. I'm very conscious of that, but I like it to be sort of that even sort of exchange of sharing experiences and sharing sort of any commonalities. And I do find that when you move where I am now, sort of more on the digital nomad side, and there is now a community built around digital nomads, the communication is different. So, you know, the way that I communicate with people here is going to be different from the way that I would communicate with people in New York. Like if I went to New York and just bounded up to them and like, tell me everything, they'd be like, psycho.
Oh, no kidding.
Whereas here, this is the way you meet people. This is the way that you explore a place, is by being open and inquiring for the open.
You can't go through life with your foot on the brake. You know, I'm only going to go so far with this because I'm going to be accelerating out of here soon, right? And you don't do it through the rearview mirror either.
Yeah.
To be fully present.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the expectations, you know. I think, and maybe you know this about too with life, is that when you have these expectations, they usually get blown out the water and you're left going like, oh.
Yes. Every time you do create well, the Buddha taught us that the expectations create suffering, particularly when we cling to them. You know, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Okay, so let go of what you thought it was going to be, because it's not, and let's meet it as it is, and see what mysteries and miracles are here for
Absolutely.
you to.
And I think, you know, in that open-mindedness too is the safety. You know, you just go up and talk to everybody, and I'm like, no, I trust the people that I'm attracting, and I trust what I'm putting out. So typically the people that I end up speaking to are trustworthy people. They're typically not going to take advantage of me, or if they're taking advantage of me, I stepped out for a minute.
Hayley, do you speak Spanish?
I'm getting better and better and better at Spanish.
Yeah.
I'm not where I expected to be.
Yes.
After being 2 years in Mexico, my expectation was that I'd be fluent and it would be almost my number one language. We're not there yet, but I can get by. You know, I can get directions. I can be at a restaurant. I can be at the market. I can get by from that perspective. But
will locals who are in the mountain be as likely to speak English as they might have been when you were?
No. Yeah. So here, in Mexico, Spanish is the most common language, but every state has its own language.
Oh.
So here, walking down the street, you'll likely hear a version of Mayan than Spanish.
Oh. Well, how are you supposed to learn it if people are speaking different languages than you?
I learned when I was in Merida, I learned Mayan sort of my first year before. I was like, I probably need to learn Spanish more than Mayan.
Yeah.
So I can, again, with Mayan, I can get by with the please, the thank yous. That's about as far as it gets, because it's just too confusing to figure out 3 languages here. And then also here, there's way more diversity. So just in the week, you know, I've been around French, English, Spanish, German, Italian. I've also been around Polish, I think. Yeah, they were Polish, on top of, like I said, the Spanish and the Mayan. So your ear is always picking up these things where it's like, oh, what language are we doing?
Is it the beauty of the space that's bringing all of these people from different parts of the world?
Yeah, I think this is it's a magical space. It's a very interesting space.
Is it expensive?
No, it's cheaper than Merida.
Ah.
But it has a different standard of living.
How is that?
It's just, every town is different, but when you compare this from the Yucatan, which is the state where Merida was, the way people live there is differently than the way the houses are here from the town perspective. So here's a little bit difficult for more of the retired expats because they're expecting more of an American experience. You don't really get American houses here. So there's a handful of houses here that are built to manage the cold.
So you're going to be cold unless you buy clothing that keeps you warm.
Clothing and space heaters. So there's no central heating, there's no air conditioning. It's all clothing and space
what about fireplaces?
There are fireplaces, yeah. Like I said, only a few have the insulation that you would expect from a sort of American build. And then there's a lot of communal living. So in my space, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 apartments. There's not a whole lot of single family homes in this area.
So you're in a building with 4 apartments. And what about the place you're going to? I know we're getting close to running out.
That is 2 apartments. It's much smaller, 2 apartments. So that will be a little bit of a difference, but
closer to town or the same distance?
It's a little bit closer to the main street, but like here, I'm on a hill. There, I'm at the bottom of the hill.
So you're going to climb up rather than
yeah. So it's so interesting and it's so much fun.
Thank you for letting me ask all these questions.
Oh, I'm happy to share.
I love it's a way of living through you this experience.
No, I'm very conscious of the fact that I am blessed, I am lucky to be doing this and to have that level of freedom when I see so many people experiencing their freedom being stripped away. So I'm happy to share and sort of let people come on the adventure with me. Because it's a very vibrant adventure.
It is. Yeah. Do you cook for yourself or do you buy prepared foods or do you eat more?
I like to cook for myself, but also it depends on the cost. So right now here in San Cristobal, it's cheaper to go out and have somebody cook for me. Whether going to a restaurant or going to the local Cocina Económicas.
What is that? What did you just say?
The Cocina Económica is when you have somebody cooking out of their house, and between like probably maybe 12 to 3, they sell it. So for like 95 pesos, 75, 95 pesos, you can get a 3-course meal.
Wow.
Yeah, which roughly is under $5.
That's great.
That will feed me for at least 2 days. And then, I go and get the fruit from the market.
You survived on an apple, so I'm sure it can get you through. I
still have my apples. My apple is like literally like the golden apple.
Yeah, that lets you feel safe and secure.
It really does. And I mean, water is also a different thing too. I know we're running out of time, but a week before I came here, I found out that the water here is poisonous. They had a massive outbreak of salmonella at the beginning, sort of December, January, February. So people were not even showering because they felt like they were getting sick from the shower. So you can imagine like a week before I got here and they were like, the water's poisonous. And I was like, no.
Oh, really?
But it's, again, the wonderful benefit of here is you get here, you figure it out.
Well, we'll talk more about that next time.
We will. Yeah, lovely to see you.
Love you.
I know that it is a hard time for you and for many others. So I do send you love. And
thank you. Thank you.
Every day, I think if we can all be in a place of love, we can.
I will imagine myself walking down the hill with you.
I will try and send you a picture of the market with the vibrancy of the market, and that will bring a smile to your face. It's my favorite place so far.
I would love that. All right.
Lots of love to you, Ray Lincoln, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you, hon. Take care. Bye-bye, Hayley.